Lego Soagwego, Madison Yongyats, Kinyokehaga, Niwakamwatsiodan, Wakniarawa, Swaganito Ageno. So, hi, I'm Madison. I'm Mohawk Turtle Clan from Six Nations of the Grand River. And this is my project, Teionkwayenawà, the Electric Vehicle Initiative. My mom's side of the family comes from Six Nations, which is in Ontario. Also, Serena is from my nation, which is really awesome. And then my dad's side of the family comes from Labrador. So all my family is like tuned in to watch all across Canada. I'm really excited. So hi guys. Um, yeah, so my clean energy. So I was actually in construction engineering, which was my first introduction to kind of the clean energy space. I think the sustainable building class was the only class I had 100% attendance in. It was the only one I really cared about. And I was really excited to get into like sustainable infrastructure. But when I asked if we would learn about Indigenous knowledge of sustainability, I was met with, have you ever been to a reserve and seen how they live? We have nothing to learn. So just like the blatant racism, but also being from an Indigenous community and knowing that our communities safeguard all of the world, all of like Indigenous communities really do care for the land, and we've been caring for the land since time immemorial. And it's only been since contact that we've seen a reduction in health of our earth. And so knowing that Indigenous knowledge isn't welcomed was kind of my cue to leave. And I was talking to my coworker about that, and she introduced me to Generation Power, which is another project or a program at Indigenous Clean Energy. So I joined that in fall of 2022. And I did the second cohort, and I just kind of did the virtual modules because I was a student at the time. And then I was able to join again, and I was actually placed with an employer. So at RFS Energy, where I was the project and research assistant, and I just wrapped up that chapter. I've gone back to school for a bit of a switch. I'm in nursing now, but I'll get into how that gets to join in with my love for clean energy. One of the biggest things that changed my view of community-led programs and projects was in the Teslin territory in Yukon, where we got to visit their biomass project. And everything from start to finish was community-led. They talked about how instead of flying engineers in every time there was a maintenance error, they taught community members how to maintain their project. And so that's just completely sustainable financially instead of flying people out, but also providing opportunity for community. And so I really drew inspiration from that, knowing that my project needed to be community-led and informed as well. So yeah, my project, it started, I was just walking home from school one day and the school shuttle drove by me, and it's one of the shuttles that goes from campus to campus, campus to dorms, to grocery stores, all that. And it was just like a thought in my mind, like, oh, I wonder if it's an electric vehicle. We have electric vehicle charging infrastructure on campus. So it's just a thought. But it kind of stuck with me, and I was like, well, if it's not, like, what if I made it into an electric vehicle? Like, would my school go for that? But honestly, schools have enough funding as is. They have so many resources that a lot of communities don't have. So I kind of switched that idea from what if I make it an electric vehicle shuttle for my school? What if I do it for my community? And so that kind of stuck with me and ultimately led me to applying to ImaGENation. But I added this quote that one of my old employers said, without connection, our people can be here sitting in front of us, but our spirits will be wandering and our spirits are lost. And so that kind of drove my project. And so the vision and mission, so my vision is increasing community connection while decreasing emissions. And then the mission statement is rooted in the spirit of Teionkwayenawà, meaning all of us people. Our mission is to reconnect urban Indigenous kin in the Waterloo region through sustainable electric transportation that supports ceremony, gathering, and cultural resilience. We are guided by a deep commitment to care for all our relations, including community, culture, and Mother Earth, all while strengthening kinship and creating pathways for a healthy future for the next 7 generations. And then that's my logo, so I had to do Turtle. I'm Turtle Cleanse, and then somehow incorporate EV. So now it's like a little cord. um, So it was my employer at the time, Laura from RFS. She really believed in my project and definitely listened to all my rambling, a lot of word vomit that she helped refine into an actual idea. And she also just believed in me and brought me onto the RFS team where I learned so much stuff. And one of my goals was to eventually lead my own project. So I definitely wouldn't be here if it weren't for her believing in me through so many different activities and project ideas that like, yeah, anyway, she's amazing. So I have a photo of my idea. I was probably supposed to be studying at this time, but decided whatever, I'm gonna focus ImaGENation. So I had a few ideas. I figured out like what I need to do to apply, who I would need to contact to make this project a reality, how to do a feasibility study. If I'm honest, I didn't even know what a feasibility study was. I just threw that word up there because it sounded cool and I was like, I've heard this term somewhere. And so I also looked at like what activities, how could I incorporate community? I looked at sending a survey, doing awareness events, applying for future funding for like infrastructure, and then doing on-site work, and then wrapping up and reporting. And I was like, hey, this is awesome. Like I can do that. And so the reason why I did that though, it was the need I saw. So like I shared a bit about um, like not people not believing in indigenous knowledge. And so I always love sharing this photo. It's kind of cool that you can see Sour Springs because it's Serena's project. But that's my reserve, and you can see the outline of where the reserve is, and that's our protected land, and you can see the actual green, the outline of where the green is. So it just again shows that indigenous knowledge really does work. It has worked. But yeah, so the need I saw is I grew up around my reserve. I never lived on my reserve, but I was very close connected to my family. And then we moved to Kitchener, and I just felt so isolated. I was young, like there's no way for me to get to my reserve. I don't drive at 6 years old. So, and yeah, like gatherings within the city, I didn't know of any. I didn't know any people. So not only myself, but my family became isolated as well. And then when I did start hearing about gatherings, there was still no way for me to get there. I don't know if Uber was a thing. My mom, she was like a really hard worker, so she was always at work, and it was just hard for us to get to gatherings. And even if you take a bus, you never know how long a ceremony is going to go. Like, and it's also just a safety thing. You don't want to be busing at 14 years old, very late at night, and hoping you can get the last bus. And then when I was able to afford Ubers or I was able to find a ride share, I did start attending different gatherings. So I have a photo of Osekanyo Hitachi. That was our land back camp. And it's also really amazing because they believed in my project from the very beginning as well. And they are Two-Spirit and Indigiqueer led land back camp, which is really amazing. So they were one of the first to make me feel welcome again. And it was really amazing that one of the co-founders was also from my nation. So just having that connection and learning even the word Yeri Nistaha, that's Mother Earth, it was like that first word that I could say again, like just transformed everything. I can now introduce myself in my language. I can say like the Thanksgiving opening, just so many different things that again, like I was here, but my spirit was lost. And so I knew if that was my journey, that must have been someone else's journey as well. So that's just kind of like why I knew this project needed to happen. But again, I didn't know how to make it happen. So this was the project timeline. I showed another photo earlier of, it was like pretty clear cut. Like I apply, I do my emails, a feasibility study, the survey, apply for more funding and get it, do the on-site work, wrap it up. Like that was like the simplest thing, super clear cut. So I was like, hey, like what could go wrong? Literally everything. Like I did not know what I was doing. I did start as a team of three. So knowing like very early on, it just became me. So I was like, okay, like what is happening? So I have apply, refine the project, emails, refine the project, feasibility study. I probably should have crossed that out because again, like I don't know what that is. Refine the project, survey, using that to refine the project, apply for more funding and panic when it's not approved, refine the project because now I don't have the funding. On-site work can't happen without the funding, so I'm refining the project again. later on, I was like, what even is my project at this point? Like, I don't know. And then I crossed out wrap up because I'm not wrapping it up yet. And I'm still refining the project. And so that was my new one. I probably should add in, like, I cried many times because I was like, again, like, what is happening? Am I even on the right track? So through this though, like, I did do the survey and I got a lot of great responses that kind of just solidified the fact that I knew I wasn't the only person having trouble accessing ceremony. And I also wasn't the only person who suffered from not being able to access ceremony. So I got a lot of good feedback about people saying they would access ceremony and even just healthcare services. So we have SOAHAC, which is our health care center that people want to access. But again, it's like the buses, you don't know when they're running. It could take an hour and a half to get somewhere 15 down the road, 15 minutes down the road, or like, is there going to be seating if you have like a walker? It was what I heard too for like our more of our elder people. And so just so many different reasons why someone can't get to ceremony, to gatherings, to like bead circles, just so many different things that may not seem like they're related to healthcare, but they're related to wellness. And then, yeah, so I was hoping to use those survey findings, and I still am, to kind of secure more funding to make this project a reality. And I also used that to kind of guide my in-person awareness event. And so a lot of things that I guess I should have anticipated a bit more. People were worried about the safety. And so I did have someone that was going to come in and teach about EV safety and the protocols that are being built out with more EVs on the road. They weren't able to make it. So all night before my awareness event, I stayed up studying and I learned a lot. Also, I should know, like, going into this project, I had no idea anything about EVs. Like, I don't even drive. Again, like, this project wouldn't be here if I knew how to drive. And so I learned a lot just in, like, in terms of knowing how to research, who to reach out to, safety. And so I really used that survey to kind of ease any concerns and let people voice why they're worried about EVs or why they support EVs. What do they know about EVs? What don't they know? What do they want to know? Just so many different things. So I'm really grateful that my community shared that around and I got some really amazing responses. And then even people who do drive and are the drivers of our communities, they responded and they shared what they saw and how it put pressure on them as some of the only drivers in our community. It's a financial burden for organizations to be spending $20 per person. Okay, 20 is like cheap. It's probably like $40 per person each way to Uber everyone. And there's just so much that shouldn't be there. There's so many emissions. And if we look back to the community that we are, we should be helping each other out. Like, as a community, let's get people there. So again, that's the increasing communities while decreasing emissions. And then I did apply for more funding. Unfortunately, I didn't get it right now. So I will be doing that again. I really do want to make this project into an actual running shuttle. I wasn't able to do that within these 18 months, but that's okay. Again, that's with the refining the project. So no on-site work right now. And then again, not wrapping it up right now either. So in the survey, I got some, like I said, I got some good responses, but these are just some numbers to highlight. So 75% of the respondents said they miss out on gatherings due to the lack of transportation, and 90% said they would attend more gatherings and services if there was safer transportation. And then these are some kind of, I guess, testimonials I took from the survey. So someone said ceremony strengthens communities. They reflect our beliefs, hopes, traditions, culture, and spirituality. They help us move through times of change with attention and intention. Someone else said, I've had many instances where transportation has been a barrier for accessing cultural resources, especially as a student who can only afford rent in the region. It has limited me to using services that are close in proximity or offer transportation, like the health center. The community is pretty great for helping each other out, but it's the actual getting myself there and the transport barrier that hinders me often. And then someone else said, ceremony is essential to build and heal community. It allows for people to check in on and help keep in touch with others. Simply being around others is medicine for the soul. So I really liked those ones because it just highlights that there really is a need for not only going to ceremony or the health centers, but just being with people. And so when I did, so before I worked in clean energy, I worked in an anti-human trafficking role. And again, like I learned that someone could be sitting in front of you, but their spirit could be missing. And I learned that when someone is lost culturally and they don't have a community, they're at risk for victimization. And Indigenous women make up 50% of trafficking victims while only making up 3% of the population. Those numbers may have changed since I worked there. But either way, we're overrepresented. And I learned throughout my time working there with a lot of the clients I worked with that when they were connected to community, they were at less a risk of re-victimization, and they actually found the strength to leave abusive scenarios or situations, leave their traffickers. Like so many good things come out of just being with community. And so again, these just highlight that it's more surface level than it seems. Like on the outside, it looks like it's just a shuttle. You were getting people to ceremony, but really it's safety and it's kinship and it's going back to the community collective ways that we were and not the individual ways that we are now. And so throughout the project, I experienced a lot of hurdles. So like I said, I started as a team of 3, and unfortunately, my team members didn't have the capacity anymore, and that's okay. So now I'm just a team of 1, but I'm also very proud of my team members who have gone on. One is working towards a career in clean energy, and one I believe is in nursing school as well, which is pretty awesome. So I am proud of them for recognizing that they don't have the capacity, but still being a cheerleader for me, which is really amazing. So that of course would change the goalposts. I took on a huge project and I'm not able to do this all alone. Community engagement was another hurdle, as like I said, many people did have concerns about EVs, and although that inspired some people to want to come and learn about them, it also had people that did not want to be involved in the project at all. And that's also one thing I learned about was like the extraction for the batteries. Again, like I didn't know anything about EVs, but I learned that the extraction was something that people had concerns about. Taking from Mother Earth, how does that harm Mother Earth? But also who is extracting? What are the ethics surrounding that? What happens when the battery is finished and can't support a vehicle anymore? So that was another hurdle, just like not knowing how to answer these questions, but trying to find the people who can. It was also hard to partner with local organizations, as unfortunately a lot of our values did not align. This is a project that is meant for community, and it didn't sit right with me to partner with an organization and use their money and resources if our values didn't align. And I didn't want to stray from my values. If someone's not able to access as an organization because they're unwelcome and don't feel safe, I want to ensure that person can still feel comfortable using my shuttle. This is for community. So if I'm partnering with someone that is fostering an unsafe place, that's not who I want to be partnered with. So it was hard and it was tempting to kind of just push those aside and get that money, but it was also something important to me that I ensured this remained for community. As well, there's also just a general lack of access to vehicles that are on this shuttle scale. So I did go to the auto show in Toronto, and I learned that there are just like not many vehicles that are that size that are electric, and the ones that are very expensive. So I was talking to one of the sales representatives, and she said that quite a few people have been inquiring, which is great because that means more people are wanting to shuttle. But it kind of sucks that there's still like hundreds of thousands of dollars. And it was also, if you're above a certain seating limit, you have to have more insurance. And then that would mean like more of a pressure to hire someone instead of a volunteer role. That would have been more feasible and financially, like that was something we could support. And then, yeah, if you get into the big vehicles, there's just so much more that needed to be done that I wasn't able to undertake. So lack of access was another hurdle. So my lessons learned, there were so many hurdles, those were only a few, but all those hurdles definitely made me into an Olympian. And I learned a lot about what is actually involved in carrying out a project. I was very naive, as you saw at the beginning, and I thought it was just very clear cut, like do what I need to do and then wrap it up. But that's actually not it at all. And like I said, that was one of my goals in Generation Power, was to learn about everything that goes into a project and carrying out a project, how to shift when there's a hurdle that comes up or you don't get the funding. What do I do now? How do I keep looking? So definitely, yeah, I learned a lot about how to manage a project and how to navigate partnerships where the values may not always align. So I did share this hurdle with a few people, and someone told me about like the partnership principles form. And so basically, you go into a partnership, you line out values that need to be upheld, and if something isn't, there's like different ways to navigate that. And so I wish I knew about that sooner, but definitely sharing that now. So if anyone needs to know that information, now you do. And then with the shuttles, like although I can't personally change how many shuttles are made and how expensive they are, I can definitely advocate for more flexibility with funding for community projects, especially Indigenous youth-led projects. And then remember when I said I had to refine the project at every step? I'm still doing that. And so although I'm not gonna have an operational shuttle last month, like I initially thought, and there's been many lessons learned. If I want to revisit this project, which I definitely will, I'm refining the project, and I'm excited to announce that I'll be releasing toolkits. And so throughout the project, I had many people reach out asking if we can do this project in their community, or how can they replicate it in their community. People just expressing interest and saying their communities are having the exact same issues, and not even in just urban Indigenous communities, but getting urban people to ceremonies within their own communities, and even not even just for ceremony, just basic food runs and grocery runs, or getting to appointments. Like transportation is a barrier everywhere. And so the toolkits I'm really excited to announce. Oh, I think I have a slide for this. I have a website. I don't know if I said that, but they'll be on my website, and you'll be available to download, and they'll have many different resources and templates that I use throughout my project. So I'm hoping to have like a budget template, kind of a calendar for if you're planning your own community awareness event, like 6 weeks out, you should have this planned and ready. 4 weeks out, you should have this ready. Here's what you should do in case this falls apart. Like what to do if you get funding, what to do if you don't get funding, just so many different things and resources that are available that I wish I knew when I was carrying out my project. And then, of course, feedback forms, because again, this is supposed to be for community. And so being able to update that with feedback from people who use it, so either the project leads or community members, and then I'll be able to update those toolkits and keep it relevant for everyone. And so overall in my project, I learned a lot about resilience. So sure, I learned about the project management. I learned about many different skills like public speaking, report writing, budgeting, but my biggest takeaway was resilience. And the connections I made throughout this project have inspired me to continue serving my community and making ceremony accessible. So all those hurdles, although they sucked in the moment and I probably cried, I got back up and I was like, hey, pivot, like let's do something else. We need to make this happen. And that was a lot of feedback I got when I was doing the awareness event, is people were worried that this project wouldn't go far, or we're hearing about it now, but how long will it take to implement? And I was honest that I'm just one person. There's not a lot of funding, but I'm doing my best, and I'm going to listen to everyone who expresses those opinions and worries, honestly. And so my community is definitely like my biggest motivation. Hearing that they felt defeated because they can't access ceremony is heartbreaking. It was even an elder saying she couldn't get to ceremony, and I never want to see that. I never want to see our youth grow up not being able to attend ceremony, because this is how our culture lives on. We need to have that connection. We need to have language shared, and honestly, even language was like the word is Teionkwayenawà, and I had an interview where they switched that word to English, and I said, no, like put that back in the language. We can't be changing this, because our language doesn't translate to English, and it doesn't hold the same meaning as when it's in our language. So planting those seeds for the other communities to hopefully be able to replicate it and riff on the project if they need to. And then, yeah, just some closing remarks. And although my initial end goal wasn't met, my project is far from a failure, and it is definitely far from being finished. Although I'll be wrapping up with ImaGENation soon, I have dreams that my project will continue making its mark for communities, for Yerinis Taha Wanja, and for our future generations. Thank you. Oh, and that's my thank you. And then that's the QR code for my website. But yeah, thank you to everyone who's like watching and supporting all our presentations. Thank you to the youth that put all your heart and soul into your projects, and the communities that backed you up. We have little spots all over Turtle Island now that we know are safe for Indigenous youth to have their presentations and their ideas fostered to success. And yeah, thank you to our AV guy, Justice.